Have you ever witnessed a single moment of courage so profound that it changed how you see the world? Imagine an evening drenched in rain, thunder rattling windows, and lightning illuminating a quiet roadside diner. Suddenly, a dangerous threat enters that safe haven, only to be confronted by an unexpected hero, one whose act of bravery leaves everyone in awe. Ask yourself, would you risk it all to protect a stranger if fate put you in that position? Type 1 if you would stand up without hesitation, or 2 if caution might guide your steps. Also, let us know where you are watching from. Our community spans the globe, and we want to hear your story. Welcome to Motivation for Success. If you are new here, please subscribe and join our ever-growing circle of determined, compassionate individuals who believe that every single moment is an opportunity to stand tall, help one another, and create a better future. Prepare yourself for a tale of silent heroism, unwavering resolve, and the deep-rooted hope that can blossom even during life's darkest storms. Late one night, in the unassuming town of Riverside Ridge, heavy rain pelted the rooftops and streets with such intensity that it drowned out nearly every other sound. The skies seemed to have cracked open in a frenzy of swirling gray clouds and flashes of bright lightning. Street lamps, spaced unevenly along the winding roads, flickered like tired sentinels struggling to keep their vigil amidst the raging weather. Pedestrians were scarce, and those who were out fought a losing battle against the brutal onslaught of wind and rain. Against this backdrop stood The Shelter, a small diner known for its comfortable booths, a hot cup of coffee that could soothe the weariest soul, and a warm bowl of soup that lifted spirits. Even from a distance, one could see the yellow glow of its neon sign battling bravely against the darkness. The Shelter was well loved by locals for its home-style cooking and by travelers for its inviting ambience. Tonight, its windows were streaked with rivulets of water, and the sounds of dripping coats and the smell of damp clothing filled the entrance as patrons hurried inside for shelter. Inside, the air was a cozy contrast to the chaos outside. A few tables were occupied by regulars nibbling on late-night meals, while in a corner booth sat a figure who commanded quiet respect. Keanu Reeves, a man whose presence radiated calm and who seemed oddly at ease in the middle of this turbulent night, sipped a simple cup of tea. Tall windows rattled each time the wind gusted, but he remained composed, periodically glancing around as if keenly aware of everyone else's safety. Soft chatter drifted through the room. Dishes clinked. The aroma of coffee, fried eggs, and warm apple pie mingled with the damp scent of rain. Overhead, dim lights created an intimate glow, reflecting off floors that had been scuffed by countless shoes over the years. The Shelter's walls bore pictures of the town's annual festivals, local sports triumphs, and black and white photographs of Riverside Ridge's earliest days. Working behind the counter was Alana, a kind-eyed waitress in her early 20s who had become a beloved fixture at the Shelter. Alana's hair, still damp from her hurried arrival, framed her face in loose curls. She moved gracefully from table to table, topping off mugs of coffee and checking if anyone needed extra napkins. Despite the late hour and the menacing weather, she wore a gentle smile that assured patrons they were in good hands. At that moment, the front door burst open with a force that rattled the bell above it. A damp gust of air swept inside, scattering droplets across the old tiled floor and extinguishing the light-hearted chatter. 4 men entered, their leather jackets waterlogged, their boots squeaking ominously against the floor. The group's leader, Grant, was a tall, broad-shouldered individual with eyes that seemed to carry a permanent glint of aggression. His posture suggested a man who relished control and forced compliance from everyone around him. Without invitation, Grant sauntered to the counter. His companions fanned out near the entrance, forming an intimidating wall of silent hostility. Alana paused, her heart pounding like the thunder outside. She could sense something was off. Although new customers sometimes arrived in foul moods because of the weather, the malice in Grant's demeanor felt different, more chilling, more direct. He slapped a hand down on the counter, causing cutlery to rattle. "Hey, we need service now," he demanded, his voice dripping with impatience. The few patrons scattered around turned to watch, their gazes shifting between Alana and the new arrivals. Alana attempted her best professional tone. "Welcome to the shelter. What can I get for you tonight?" She tried to maintain composure, but her voice wavered slightly. Grant smirked, glancing over his shoulder at his friends. "Coffee. And keep it coming," he said, tossing a few crumpled bills toward Alana. "If I like the service, maybe I'll leave you a tip." He locked eyes with her, and the tension in the room surged. Outside, the wind howled as if it, too, sensed the building storm inside. Keanu, who had been seated at the corner booth, subtly straightened his posture, setting his cup of tea aside. Alana collected the bills with trembling fingers, turning toward the coffee machine behind the counter. She knew these men weren't just here for warm drinks. Something about their posture, the tightness of their expressions, suggested they thrived on intimidation and maybe even violence. Her heart beat a frantic rhythm that echoed the furious rain slamming against the glass. Before Alana could pour the first cup, Grant leaned forward, knocking a small stack of napkins to the floor. "You know," he said, his voice low and menacing, "it's a lousy night. I think we deserve a little entertainment. Why don't you hurry up and dance for us or something?" Several patrons gasped quietly, exchanging worried glances. One older couple in the corner shrank into their seats, hoping to avoid drawing attention. The hum of the overhead lights and the relentless drone of rain on the rooftop intensified the hush that had fallen over the diner. Swallowing her anxiety, Alana replied, "Sir, we're just a diner. If you need food or coffee, I can help you, but I won't be able to offer anything else." Grant's smirk grew more predatory. "Well, sweetheart, maybe you can do better than just coffee. How about a little extra attention for me and my friends? We've had a long day, and we could use some entertainment." His tone made Alana's stomach churn with fear. She glanced at the rest of the men, noticing how they were eyeing the diners and the walls, as if gauging how easily they could dominate this little sanctuary. In the corner, Keanu Reeves quietly set his mug down and rose from his seat. The overhead light glinted off the silver watch on his wrist as he calmly positioned himself halfway between the booth and the counter. One of Grant's companions stepped forward, blocking Keanu's path. The man was tall, clad in a soaked jacket that dripped water onto the worn floor. "You got a problem," he hissed, twisting his neck side to side, a gesture that hinted at a readiness for violence. Keanu's voice remained measured. "Let the woman do her job. That's all she's here for," he said, giving the man a level stare. Meanwhile, Alana felt her pulse racing. She could see that Keanu was moving into a protective stance, positioning himself as a shield between her and these unpredictable strangers. She didn't know him personally, he was just a quiet patron who visited occasionally. Yet the subtle steadiness in his voice and the calm in his eyes offered her an unexpected glimmer of hope. Grant dragged a stool out and sat, lacing his fingers together on the countertop. "Who exactly are you?" he barked, flicking his eyes from Keanu's boots all the way up to his face. "I'm just someone who wants to enjoy a peaceful cup of tea," Keanu said, offering a small, controlled shrug. "And I'm pretty sure the rest of these folks came here for the same reason." Outside, the gusts of wind rattled the window frames, driving a renewed torrent of rain against the glass. A flash of lightning turned the world white for a split second, revealing the tense standoff to everyone present, as if freeze-framing the confrontation in stark detail. Grant snorted. "Last I checked, nobody's in charge of me," he said with a chilling chuckle. "So maybe mind your own business." He stood, towering over the counter, and turned to face Alana. She took a small step back, her hand trembling around the coffee pot. The overhead lights flickered just then, threatening to plunge the diner into darkness, but they regained their glow a heartbeat later. Keanu shifted, placing a hand gently on the counter, as though to steady Alana. His tone was gentler now. "It's okay," he told her softly, then addressed Grant with quiet authority. "Look, no one wants trouble. You're welcome to stay, have coffee, maybe something to eat. But that's where it ends. There won't be any harassment here." Grant's friends exchanged uncertain glances. Perhaps they had expected immediate compliance or abject fear. The calmness radiating from Keanu was something they hadn't anticipated. It was unsettling them in a way aggression never could. With a sneer, Grant lunged forward. He reached out to grab the collar of Keanu's dark jacket, but Keanu stepped aside with practiced ease. The move seemed effortless, almost too swift to follow. Grant stumbled forward, momentarily off balance, a jolt of rage contorting his features. The diners let out a collective gasp. The older couple near the window flinched. Alana took a fearful step back. Outside, thunder boomed so loudly it shook the plates on the shelves. The flickering light overhead made the scene look like a moment plucked from a dream or a nightmare. One of Grant's companions, emboldened by his leader's anger, jumped in. He slammed a hand on a nearby table, sending utensils clattering to the floor. "You think you can just walk around telling people what to do, hero?" he spat, glaring at Keanu. Keanu's expression remained steady. Slowly, he exhaled, as if centering himself. "No, not at all. But I won't stand by while you threaten people who've done nothing to you," he replied, voice low but unwavering. Grant, still fuming from his failed grab, hurled a punch aimed straight at Keanu's chest. Time seemed to slow as the drama unfolded. Alana's breath caught in her throat. Several onlookers stood up from their seats, knocking chairs aside in their haste. Plates wobbled on tabletops. Rain hammered the windows relentlessly, each drop echoing like a warning. Somehow, Keanu sidestepped the attack again, deflecting the blow with a fluid motion of his forearm. He did not counter with a forceful strike, rather, he used Grant's own momentum against him. Grant landed awkwardly, stumbling backward into his companion, who barely managed to hold him upright. The diner fell into stunned silence, even the coffee machine's hiss momentarily forgotten. Rain hammered against the windows as tension thickened in the air. Grant's eyes burned with anger. "Who are you, some kind of vigilante?" Keanu's gaze swept the frightened patrons. "Call me what you want," he said softly, eyes returning to Grant. "But these people deserve peace." Grant lunged, fists flying. His friends followed, chairs screeching and glass shattering as chaos erupted. Keanu moved with calm precision, blocking, dodging, and deflecting each strike with practiced ease. He never hit harder than necessary, protecting himself without escalating the violence. "The police are on their way." Alana's voice cut through the noise. The attackers hesitated, their confidence cracking. Grant, breathless and bruised, jabbed a finger at Keanu. "You'll regret this. You think you're some kind of hero?" Keanu, hair disheveled but steady, shook his head. "It's not about being a hero. It's about doing what's right. We can all choose that." The glare of sirens painted the diner in red and blue. Grant froze. Outside, officers stepped into the rain. Inside, the crowd exhaled in relief, their fear replaced by quiet admiration for the stranger who stood his ground. Police stormed into the shelter, swiftly restraining Grant and his companions. The tension broke like a fragile glass, leaving behind shaky breaths and wide-eyed relief. Alana, gripping the counter, exhaled a tremulous sigh. Across the room, Keanu stepped back, letting the officers do their job. Grant, disheveled and furious, sneered at Keanu. "You'll regret this," he spat, voice hollow with defeated bravado. Keanu's calm gaze held steady. "It's not about regrets. It's about doing what's right." Patrons slowly rose from cover, checking on one another. Alana caught Keanu's eye and whispered, "Thank you. I don't know what we would have done without you." He nodded, voice steady. "I'm just glad I could help." Word of the night spread fast. A photo of Keanu, serene in the midst of chaos, circulated online, and soon the tale of his quiet heroism became the town's favorite topic. Parents used it to teach courage. Teens debated whether they'd have acted the same way. At the shelter, regulars joked about hanging his picture with the caption, "Proof that courage is contagious." Alana often replayed the events in her mind, the fear, the chaos, the calm determination in Keanu's eyes. Loud noises still made her flinch, but she found strength in his example. Day after day, she greeted customers with renewed purpose, her gaze sometimes lingering on the corner booth where he'd sat. Riverside Ridge, a town where everyone knew everyone, embraced the story. Conversations turned to the nature of courage. Did they all have a spark of that same bravery? Neighbors grew a bit kinder, smiles more genuine. In the end, Keanu's act wasn't just about stopping a fight. It reminded the town that courage isn't grandiose, it's the simple decision to do what's right when it matters most. About a week later, Alana was ending her shift when the bell over the door chimed. Rain was once again coming down, though far less ferociously than the night of the incident. She glanced up and felt her heart skip a beat. There stood Keanu Reeves, drops of water glittering on the shoulders of his dark coat. He walked over to the counter, offering a polite nod. "Hi," he said quietly. "I hope you're doing all right." Alana inhaled, finding the magnitude of what she wanted to say difficult to compress into one conversation. She brought him a fresh cup of coffee, and then the two took a seat at a booth, coincidentally, the same corner one he'd occupied before. "Thank you doesn't quite cover it," Alana said softly, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "I really don't know how to express my gratitude. You protected me when you had no obligation to do so." Keanu glanced down at the table, taking a moment to gather his words. "Sometimes, we're in the right place at the right time," he answered with a gentle shrug. "I saw something wrong happening, and I just tried to make sure no one got hurt. That's all." "But that's not all," Alana replied. "You had a choice. You could have walked out, pretended you didn't see anything, or just stayed quiet." Keanu thought for a moment. "All I know is that if we each do our part, the world gets a little better. Maybe there's no dramatic reward in it, and maybe no one else will even notice. But the idea that someone else doesn't have to experience fear or harm because we stepped up, that's enough." Alana's eyes welled with tears, but they were tears of gratitude, of a depth of emotion she hadn't quite known how to label until that moment. She felt like she was talking with an old friend, despite having only met him in a high-stress situation. "I just want you to know that you changed something for me," she confessed. "I'm not going to let intimidation or fear keep me from living or from doing the right thing, either." Keanu offered a faint but warm smile. "That's all I could hope for," he replied. Overhead, the diner's lights cast soft reflections on the tabletop, and the chorus of raindrops on the windows created a lullaby of calm. For a few minutes, they simply sipped their drinks, immersed in a comfortable silence that felt worlds away from the terror of that stormy night. In the following weeks, the story continued to resonate. Social media posts about the shelter incident garnered attention from people outside Riverside Ridge. Small local news outlets picked up on it. Many viewers left comments describing similar experiences or expressing how the story encouraged them to intervene if they saw someone being threatened. Riverside Ridge's mayor, an elderly woman named Marilyn Pierce, mentioned the incident at a community gathering. She highlighted it as an example of citizens supporting one another. In times of crisis, we discover our best selves. Courage and kindness can be found in even the most unassuming among us, she said, capturing the town's collective sentiment. Meanwhile, Grant and his companions faced charges for attempted assault and disturbing the peace. The courts in Riverside Ridge did not treat intimidation lightly. For many residents, hearing of legal consequences for that night's violence brought relief and a sense that justice had prevailed. Alana, resolved to spread positivity, began volunteering at a local community center that focused on youth programs. She told her story to teenagers who struggled with bullying or low self-esteem. "You may not realize it now," she would tell them, "but courage exists in all of us. Sometimes you only discover how strong you can be when you're tested." Even after the roads dried and the nights turned calmer, the memory of that turbulent evening at the shelter held firm in the hearts of Riverside Ridge's people. Patrons would enter, glance at the corner booth, and reflect on how a storm outside could mirror the storms within, storms of fear, tension, or aggression. Yet they also recalled the unwavering calm that had acted like a beacon of light, guiding them to a safer outcome. Alana's daily interactions carried a new spark of sincerity. She found greater patience when dealing with difficult customers, and she noticed how a kind word or a warm smile could ease someone's burdens, even if just momentarily. A teenage boy who used to sneak in just before closing to buy a slice of pie confided that her resilience had inspired him to stand up for a bullied classmate at school. Throughout Riverside Ridge, small acts of kindness and bravery multiplied like seeds scattered in fertile soil. Neighbors offered to shovel each other's driveways after winter storms. Families cooked extra meals for those in need. The local volunteer fire department saw an uptick in new recruits eager to serve. The prevailing sentiment was, if one person can stand up against threats with quiet bravery, then what might we accomplish together? So here we are, dear listeners, back in the glow of this retelling. The downpour outside the shelter that night was more than just wind and water, it was a tempest that tested hearts. Keanu Reeves, through controlled composure and genuine empathy, demonstrated the kind of heroism we all have the capacity for, stepping in to protect someone in danger, despite the risks. Reflect on that in your own life. How many times have you witnessed a situation where someone needed help? Did you rush in or hold back, uncertain if it was your place or if you might face negative consequences? There's no shame in hesitation, it's a natural human response. But stories like this remind us that there's also power in saying, "I can do something. I can help." Now, we want to hear your voice. Share your thoughts on what you would do if you found yourself in a scenario like Alana's or Keanu's. Let us know by commenting with a 1 if you believe you would stand firm and intervene, or a 2 if you feel caution would make you hesitate. Also, mention where you're tuning in from, be it the heart of a bustling city or a quiet country town. We're a global family here at Motivation for Success, and your perspective matters. If this story has touched your heart, awakened your sense of justice, or stirred your desire to bring more compassion into the world, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You'll be joining a community that supports the belief that true strength isn't measured by force alone but by empathy, integrity, and the willingness to stand up for what is right. As you step away from this story, let it serve as a lingering reminder that in life's darkest moments, a single act of kindness or bravery can cast a light that warms the souls of many. When we choose compassion and courage, we transform ordinary places into sanctuaries of hope. Even a small diner like the shelter can become a beacon that shines beyond one stormy night, whose impact is felt in the hearts of everyone who hears its tale. The lesson is clear: you do not need to be famous, wealthy, or have a remarkable backstory to stand up for someone in need. You just need to care. That spark of care, once ignited, can lead to decisions that protect the vulnerable and challenge the aggressors, forging a brighter, more empathetic community. In sharing this account, remember that every role is vital. Whether you are the onlooker who calls for help, the friend who provides comfort, the individual who intervenes, or the voice that keeps alive the story of compassion, you contribute to the welfare of others. Each moment of moral courage can ripple outward, influencing families, neighborhoods, and entire societies. Here at Motivation for Success, we believe in nurturing that courage within you. Stories of heroism, both grand and subtle, remind us that the lines defining our potential for good are limited only by our willingness to act. So, as you close this chapter of inspiration, consider what storms you might face in your own life. They may not always involve fists and physical threats; they might instead be verbal confrontations, social injustices, or emotional battles. In each of those storms, you hold the power to become a guiding light, if you choose. At its core, the moral of this story boils down to compassion fortified by courage. When we extend our empathy to others, we recognize their vulnerability as our shared human condition. When we respond with conviction, we declare that we are not powerless in the face of darkness. Even the smallest steps, calling for help, offering words of comfort, or defusing a heated argument, can stand as bulwarks against cruelty. Never underestimate the effect of your actions. Quiet strength has a resonance that bellowing aggression cannot match. A single person's calm resolve can change how an entire group perceives and reacts to danger. Ultimately, when you choose to do what is right, you validate the belief that hope and solidarity can thrive even in the midst of life's worst storms. Thank you for joining us on this journey of courage and compassion. If the events at the shelter resonated with you, remember, bravery isn't reserved for heroes, it's found in everyday choices. In moments of challenge, would you act or hesitate? Comment 1 if you'd stand up and 2 if you'd pause. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. We love connecting with our global community. Subscribe to Motivation for Success for more stories that remind us of the power of doing what's right. Together, we can spread kindness, inspire action, and spark positive change. Until next time, stay inspired, stay brave, and never underestimate the ripple effect of one courageous choice. True strength is not a demonstration of physical might alone, it is the resilient determination to uphold what is just, even when no one else dares. When you choose empathy over indifference and courage over fear, you awaken a quiet power capable of illuminating the shadows lurking in any storm. May this account, born of rain and bravery, embolden you to spread kindness and compassion wherever you tread. Thank you for tuning in to Motivation for Success. We look forward to hearing your perspectives in the comments. Together, let us forge a community guided by empathy, solidarity, and unwavering determination. Above all, let us commit ourselves to ensuring that in the darkest of nights, a single act of valor can still pierce the gloom, lighting the way toward a better, more compassionate world for all.